God, I'll turn the camera on. I haven't fucking clicked record. I hate when I do that, Cooper. So, you want to know why I collect physical media? Well, it's a long story, but in a short way, it's because I like to, so... Bye. What? Oh, alright, fine, I'll dive into it. I mean, it's... To some degree, there's not much to talk about. There's the element of, hey, cool, look, I have Counterpart Season 1. I'm grabbing it out because I bought it for free and I have never watched it. I don't even know if there's a second season. Anyway, I had it on my mind earlier today. Physical media. It's a hell of a thing. I grew up with DVDs and VHS like most people, did. Most people. Some people did. Trust me, after meeting my girlfriend, turns out there's a lot of people who did not grow up with basically watching anything, unless it was Nickelodeon or Disney. Mostly Disney. Yikes. So if you don't also know what the wonders of watching Alien at the age of 6 is, we can't be friends. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that, kids. Anyway, look, physical media, DVDs, Blu-rays, there's obviously a lot in front of me and behind me and around me. It fills my life with some essence of purpose, or a very obvious indicator that I've spent all of my life savings on this, and these things as well. It's a creature from the Black Lagoon. Look, it's a bust. Whoa, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, cool dude. He doesn't live there. He lives over there. I don't really know what got me into collecting physical media. I guess once I got into university and I was, I got a job and I could start buying my own movies, I just kind of did. Like, it was always going to be an evolution, like most things always are. You just go to your local retailer, for me, JB Hi-Fi, and then you discover other places, there's, from Amazon to eBay, and then you're also discovering, more retailers in other countries, like Zavi, for example, but then you're also discovering certain publishers, like Criterion and Arrow Video, and then there's Boutique Blu-ray, and then there's Steelbooks, and then there's, like, slipcover media and special editions and limited editions and all these different iterations of media. And it can be a little overwhelming, but for me it was a gradual thing. Like, I learned about Criterion because of a podcast I used to listen to, where the only way I could get House from 1977, was to buy the Criterion. So I was like, alright, I'll do that. And I imported it for like, $50. And it didn't work on my player because it was a region A and I was a region B, and I didn't even know what the hell that was. So from, that kind of went from there to there. And to be fair, that was for me where it kind of started. But realistically, it started with the fact that I grew up with VHS, which I still have a couple of them way up there. That was Star Wars, HR Puff and stuff. Bunch of shit. And it was like, you watched live TV and then you would just record it onto your VHS so you could watch it later, however it be. But then we had DVDs, and we still have a hell of a lot of DVDs. Obviously, Blu-rays have outweighed them because, of course, I've done that to myself. But DVDs was like, Dad had all these movies on the shelf that he would just collect over time. He would occasionally get some imported as well. And then, as kids, we'd have TV shows that we'd really like, stuff like Doctor Who, which they would release stuff per volume, which was really, really greedy. So we have, like, every single volume on DVD, which, like, post from 2005 onwards, which is not great, because that's, like, 3 episodes a disc, and there's, like, 4 volumes a season, so that was 4 whole cases, which is a lot of DVDs. But but most of it was just stuff that we liked. We very rarely, as when we grew up, would go to cinemas in general, or go and buy DVDs. So when we did, it was always something interesting. Like maybe, I don't know, we didn't really like get films for our birthdays or anything. Dad would. Oh, actually, no. That changed when Blu-rays came out, because Dad got a few films on Blu-ray. Some of them were like Steelbooks originally, like The Wolfman, the one with Benicio del Toro. There were some other Blu-rays that we got at the time. Some of them were like Blu-ray DVD collector sets, especially from 2012 onwards, with Prometheus and The Hunger Games. And it would start with that, basically, but we obviously collected them earlier than that. We had a stage. I'm getting a bit mixed up, but Dad had bought DVDs. He'd started with VHS, then DVDs. We grew up with DVDs and the VHS. When Blu-ray came about, we didn't get onto it straight away. It wasn't until maybe 2009, 2010 period, when the Wii came out, that you could get a special deal where you got a new TV, Panasonic, 16:9 full-inch TV, HD, all that kind of crap. You get a Blu-ray player with it, and you get a Wii. And that was a great bundle because it was summer, we were kids, something to play as a family, have a new entertainment thing, because our TV was the big TV, like, not wide, as in fat. We had those fat-ass TVs. They were classic things. So we got a flat screen, basically, I just refer to it as the Panasonic, because I believe that's the brand it was. We've stuck mostly with Panasonic most of our lives, outside of me getting some Sonys, and the really small TVs that we'd get for, like, as monitors for our rooms, for our computers. That was also in our teens, but this isn't about TVs, it's about Blu-rays, movies. And so, yeah, Dad just kind of started buying a few Blu-rays here and there, because it was a new format, but it was obviously, there was some films that were pretty new, that was like, oh, why not get this instead, and he would be very picky about it. He wouldn't get, like, dramas or comedies. It would be something with special effects, something that visually you'd want to look great, which also seems kind of ironic, because instead of getting Avatar on Blu-ray, we got Prometheus. But Prometheus was also a bundled thing, because, when Blu-ray started coming out, they're like, okay, we're going to bundle them with DVDs and package them with a fuck ton of extras, so people would be buying them, make it as a collector's thing. People would want to put in the extra pocket, because they'd be getting better image, but just in case they don't have a Blu-ray yet, or they're not completely familiar with the format, they get a DVD as well, so they can still watch the DVD version. So, that was just how it was. And that was basically how it was for a long time. One of the first Blu-rays I ever got, I'm pretty sure it was the first Blu-ray I ever got, was Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. My dad bought them for me for my birthday, probably 2010, I'd say. I don't know. I mean, Hot Fuzz was like, 2004, and 2006 was, no, sorry, Shaun of the Dead was like 2004, 2005, and 2006, I think 2007 was Hot Fuzz. It was about 2008 to 2009. They got me them as on Blu-ray, because we'd watched, we'd watched Shaun of the Dead on SBS. Dad had taped it, and we watched the first half of Hot Fuzz on like a Thursday night or something when I was on TV, and then we had to go to bed because the next day, I don't even think the next day was a school day. I think we were like going somewhere the next day. It was it was probably a Friday night. It was one of those really bad circumstances where like the movie's on at like 10 o'clock and you had, well, probably 9 o'clock actually. We were kids still. But then, so yeah, those were my first Blu-rays, which was pretty cool. I didn't actually have a Blu-ray player. I didn't have my own Blu-ray player for a long time. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because, like, this is kind of how it started for me. Like, obviously, being someone who was born in 1998, a lot of stuff was VHS and DVD growing up. And most of it was, like, TV shows that we really liked or whatever. Like, I'd still get TV shows for my birthdays or whatever, or, a lot of it was birthday or Christmas basically nothing else. It wasn't like someone would just randomly buy me a film. It wasn't like my uncle one day bought me a Blu-ray of this film and suddenly I was hooked. Like, I didn't have anything like that. He gave us pirated movies and free video games. He gave us a PS2 for like 5 years. It was great. Anyway, that's a different story. But I mean, I can't remember any earlier Blu-rays than Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. And it was the same day because it was my birthday at the time. I think I was 10 or 12. I got my first Blu-ray player for my birthday when I was maybe 16 or 17, because we had the family, TV unit and everything, so that's where the Blu-ray player was, and that was a DVD player. It was basically all regions at the time, which was great. Most players these days aren't all region, which really fucking sucks. Most of them were like all region for DVDs at least, not really for Blu-rays. So we could watch like a lot of our British DVDs that we'd gotten from when we'd gone overseas, same as like we had some Doctor Who and whatever directly from the UK. And we were able to watch those really easily, but obviously since then times have changed and most things are restricted to a just specific code, which is another thing I learnt about post-high school because, my last 2 years of high school I had my own Blu-ray player and it was like a really cheap player. It was like, $70-80 Australian dollars, so it doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it's really fucking cheap compared to what I have over there. That's like $1,000 and one bloody square inch. I had that Blu-ray player for a long time. I had it on my TV, very standard TV. I still didn't even really change the settings much or whatever. Most stuff was still pretty new to me in terms of tech, and yeah, basically the end of 2017, I used to go to JB a lot in university, especially when I met Guy. Him and I would like go trips to JB Hi-Fi in Camberwell because we were at Swinburne in Hawthorne, and it's just 2 stations up the track, easy peasy. That was basically like 2018 onwards. Basically, once both of us had jobs or at least some kind of income, so we'd be able to go out and buy. And suddenly, I was just buying kind of left, right, and center. Me and my old best friend would go shopping. We just buy some movies, and I don't really know what caught on as a thing. Like, I'd basically be most of the stuff I'd be consuming because I had been studying media studies in my last 2 years of high school. Suddenly, it was like I got to watch these films. Like, I got to collect all the Stanley Kubrick films. I got to collect like David Lynch films. Actually, David Lynch was from first year uni onwards. Like, there was a lot of collecting particular directors, getting films that I really liked. Like, I remember getting Swiss Army Man when it came out back in 2016, and that was great. And then the first 4K I got was Blade Runner 2049. I bought the 4K because I bought a 4K TV, and I think that was 2019 because we moved into this house in the May of 2019, and we bought the TV about 2 months beforehand because we knew we were moving, and I knew I was getting a theater room. So I figured, because I already had a shelf in my room at the time that was chock-a-block full of Blu-rays. I think it's probably in some of my older videos. If you looked at my channel, I think I've got a very old video back in like 2017, 2018 period, which is like my Blu-ray collection video, which had garnered a lot of views at the time, and then I realized that it was kind of the thing to be like buying Blu-rays and showing them off and stuff, so, I haven't really changed much, have I? But, yeah, it kind of just went from there, and so I got into 4K after that, and I didn't really get the hype of it, but I was, like, happy to get good looking films. I basically had Dad's approach to it, like, if it was a film that had great special effects or was a visual spectacle or whatever the fuck, not just a romantic comedy, then I'd get the 4K of it, So, yeah, it just kind of went from there. I discovered Criterion, I discovered region-free players, and then Boutique went from there, from Criterion to Arrow Video to Kino to Eureka to all kinds, just whatever I could find of the film. Mostly I was looking for Region B stuff because I wanted my dad to be able to still watch it because he didn't have a region-free player, despite the fact that the region-free player was in my room or in the theater room. Now it's out there, and I've got a second one in here, so, And yeah, it basically just went from there, from, I'd say maybe 2010 onwards, having gotten those first two. I think it was 2008. Really, I think it was in 2008 I got those first two Blu-rays. They were MA films, so of course my dad had to buy them for me. I mean, I still remember buying my first R18 film, and it wasn't even, like, it was like Apocalypse Now, and I was like 15 at the time, but I was doing that teenage thing where you grow up facial hair, and it looks fucking atrocious. Thank God that's semi-changed. Guy didn't even ask me for an ID, so I got Apocalypse Now, and then I watched the Blu-ray, and it was great. I really don't know what made me buy a lot. I think it was just a factor of, I was getting money, and suddenly it was like, hey, I can buy all these movies that I want and I want to watch. And some of it was stuff that people had suggested on Twitter, stuff I was suggested from the podcasts I listened to, or video essays or whatever. Like, I used to watch a bunch of different people who made video essays on random-ass, obscure-ass films. Really, really random films. Like, again, like Hausu. And that got me into looking for specifically random films, and that developed my taste more. I started liking horror a lot more. Hey, maybe if it's kind of goofy 70s horror. Maybe if it's kind of like cheesy 80s horror. I just kind of evolved from there. So I was collecting like mostly horror, but also boutique, and then sometimes specific directors, hence David Lynch, Guillermo del Toro. I've got some Scorsese, I've got Kurosawa, I've got Kubrick, Dario Argento. It just kept evolving, and yeah, I've delineated more as to what I like to collect. But fuck it, for the most part, like I got this one recently. It's just a Hammer horror film about a Gorgon. It's like, why not? I just like buying random ass stuff. Like Godzilla, I like my monster movies. I've got a lot of monster movies. I love my Universal monsters, and I like Hammer horror as well. So, yeah, it's just kind of gone from there. Like, do I regret purchases? Of course I regret purchases. There's a lot of times where I buy a DVD when I could have just bought the Blu-ray. Inglourious Basterds, for example. I was dating a girl at a time, and I didn't have the money for it. I think I had like, 10, 15 bucks on me, and it was like 25 bucks for the DVD, and I wanted to buy it because it was on the shelf, and she gave me the extra 5, 10 bucks for it, so we bought it, and then I paid her back later with whatever pocket money I got, but I paid her back, and we went back to my place and watched it, and I don't think anyone enjoyed it except for me. It was weird. I don't know. It's one of those things, just some people I was already used to Tarantino by that stage. I'd watched Kill Bill and, like, Pulp Fiction. So, I had watched some of these films already, and I'd seen Inglourious Basterds once before on TV. And then watching it on DVD, I was like, hell, this is crazy. I was, 16. So, most of those films of his, I was probably not meant to watch at that stage. But hell, I watched Alien at the age of 6. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, look, I've always enjoyed what I buy. There's always regrets, but fuck it. Sometimes it's like, who cares? Like, there are occasionally films that I'll buy that I'll look at again and be like, why the hell did I buy that? It's such a bad film. But most of the time, how would you know? And I like expanding my taste. So, of course, eventually, if the Academy ever lets me get my own fucking house and gets my own theater room, then I will have a bigger shelf without basically any DVDs, maybe like 30 to 40 DVDs, and the rest will be Blu-rays and 4Ks, and it will just look incredible. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I like what I have. It amazes people when they come in for the first time and they're like, holy shit, that's a lot of movies, Like, people think, like, initially a lot of the time people would think it was like an addiction or a problem, but it's like, I'm putting my money into art pieces, basically, whether they're bad art, good art, various kinds of art, just by points of taste. Sometimes I buy shit, and I wouldn't even watch it, and I still haven't watched some of this stuff, like, this one, Devil's Backbone, bought it years ago, still haven't watched it. It's just that kind of a thing, where I'll buy a film that I want, or that I'm interested in at the time, or it's on sale, or it's a buy two get one free, and it's like, fuck it, why not? And yeah, it just kind of goes from there. But look, I mean, we all have our tales, all have our stories, all have our reasons for buying stuff or getting into our hobbies and habits. Like, I have a similar story for how I got into collecting figurines, and that basically started from outside of being a kid and liking toys, you know, buying pop vinyls because I liked the pop culture of, you know, Blade Runner or Twin Peaks or Alien or whatever. And then that evolved into, oh my god, I gotta get all these pop vinyls. And then I traded one pop vinyl with my mate for like a NECA figurine, and suddenly it's like, holy shit, there's actually like all these bigger, cooler, more detailed figurines. And I got out of pop vinyls and got into more detailed, more expensive figures. I mean, the same thing happened with steelbooks. Like, I don't know what my first steelbook was personally, because I know that Dad had a few. Like, we had like the Wolfman, and I think Jack Reacher was one of the first ones we had on Blu-ray, but I didn't like them when they first came out. Like, I genuinely, like, it's the kind of thing where you'd press your thumb into it and it would really hurt my thumb, and I wouldn't be able to get the disc out half the time. You know, I'd be like, I'm going to snap the disc, it's too fragile. And it's like, discs aren't that fragile, trust me. Once you actually do a video of trying to smash up a Blu-ray, you realize, holy shit, these things are really hard to break, unless you're decently strong, which I'm not. But yeah, so I don't know what got me into steelbooks, genuinely. I just kind of found some with artwork of films that I liked, and it just kind of went from there. Like, if I take a look at my shelf... Alright, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what my first steelbook was. I have no fucking clue. I feel like it might have been like Alita, but that I definitely would have been collecting steelbooks by that stage. I'm pretty sure I started collecting steelbooks in 2018. Like actually started going out of my way to collect steelbooks. I don't know what the hell got me on them. I think once I discovered Zavvi, it was suddenly like, fuck yeah, steelbooks galore. And I really liked steelbooks for a long time. I've kind of gotten out of that, but you know, I think it was also like some films had 4K steelbooks, and I kind of got into. I can imagine that's what kind of got me into it. Like, I really like the design of this thing, and hey, it's got a steelbook, it's got a 4K, why not? I don't know. I have no idea. Genuinely no idea. I mean, I don't even know how I discovered premiums and stuff like that. I think I was on like a steelbook forum, and the steelbook forum on Reddit, that did a lot of damage to my bank account, because suddenly it was like, hey, look at all these steelbooks, and I was like, I gotta get that. And then there was the premiums, and I blame Reddit for me discovering most of my steelbooks, and especially premiums. Nevertheless, that's basically at least the history of why do I collect physical media. I mean, yeah, obviously the answer is I like movies and I like buying them. It's not really I don't like streaming. It's like, I don't want compression rates. And I don't give a fuck, you know. Most streaming services suck anyway, you know. Like, my favourite one's a Criterion channel, but they still only bloody broadcast everything in mono audio. It's ridiculous. So, or like 2.0 stereo. It's usually really shit. But nevertheless, I like buying physical media. I like having the physical case to be able to grab out of my shelf, be like, hey, do you want to watch Pan's Labyrinth? This is the Criterion. It's Region A. It comes with a booklet, which is kind of a poster. It's director approved, and it's a fucking good film. You know, there's just all kinds of shit like that. Also, the sound of it. Oh, there was a TikTok recently of the guy closing all like those video game cases. Oh, good sounds. Smash them up for you. Anyway, so I guess realistically, sure, the first Blu-ray I ever got, I do believe, was Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. And that was just because they were there on the shelf in this cool comic book cover, because they had the slip covers. And I've always adored that. And I think I got Scott Pilgrim very shortly after that, which I think personally was one of the first films I bought. I'm pretty sure Scott Pilgrim was maybe the first film I bought on Blu-ray, because I really liked Edgar Wright as an early teen. So, yeah, I'm more than certain that Scott Pilgrim was probably one of the first ever Blu-rays I ever bought. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm very happy to have what I have, and to have been given the opportunity to buy all of this stuff. I don't need to buy a house anytime soon. Who needs that? Fuck that. Anyway, that's all for now. Hopefully my story has, I don't know, enlightened you to some degree. I've kind of, hopefully doing this in a two-parter with basically let's look at my shelf and see what I've watched, if I ever finish editing that video. Nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to let me know in the comments, like, what got you into collecting physical media, or if you prefer Blu-rays or DVDs or whatever, like, most people I can imagine started with VHS and went from there. I used to, like, download a lot of movies in high school, so I wasn't even into physical media at the time. It just became a thing because I had a bunch of DVDs. It basically was, once I started getting money, I started spending money. That's the best answer for it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Adios.